What's up, everybody? This is Harry Bernard Taylor with the Straight Up Wrestling Podcast Show. I'm with my man Chris Burton, the
People's
people.
Podcaster.
That's it. Yes. Uh, Tonight, man, I'm on. This evening, I'm here to talk about a tag team that got me interested in pro wrestling. Well, actually, the first team that made me notice professional wrestling. I already did one on the first wrestler that made me notice professional wrestling, and that was Chief Wahoo Daniel. Did that last month, and Chris did one on Hulk Hogan, the first guy that actually attracted him to professional wrestling. But I'm here to talk about the tag team that actually caught my eye. I couldn't stand this tag team, but I I learned to appreciate them the years, man, and what they was able to accomplish, what they was able to do in the eyes of wrestling fans. Devastating team, man. And these guys I'm talking about is the Minnesota Wrecking Crew. Ole and Gene Anderson are the ones pretty much that I saw, that I followed. I did see the version of Lars and Gene, and sometimes teaming with Ole.
Keep
But
talking real quick, Harry. Keep talking
okay,
real quick.
sure. All right, but yeah, Chris Dog is kind of getting into the action, so he's kind of like gonna take care of that business. But he'll be back on in just a minute. But right now, like I said, I'm gonna talk about Ole and Gene Anderson. First time I saw these guys was in 1975, well, maybe 1974, anywhere between 1974 and 1975. These guys, man, they were just something special. They were something special. Their mo was working on people's one body part. Usually it was the arm, and they broke people's arms, man. You know, the team wasn't a joke. Uh, and I mean, it was they was hard to beat. They was hard to beat, man. And I enjoyed every single minute of it. I'm gonna wait just a little bit to Chris get back so I can get into a little bit more about this tag team. And Chris is gonna come back and he's gonna talk about his favorite tag teams and why he thinks there's teams that rank over the Ole and Gene Anderson. In my opinion, at one time I was thinking this is probably the best tag team that's ever been. I know a lot of people out there are gonna say, a lot of people straight off the bat they're gonna jump with the Road Warriors. It was the greatest tag team of all time. But in my opinion, they was not the greatest tag team of all time. I put them in the top five, but they're not the greatest tag team of all time. They're definitely not the most accomplished tag team of all time. But I definitely love this team, Gene and Ole Anderson, because of what they was able to accomplish, man, in the sport. They was devastating. And if anybody who watched wrestling, man, in anywhere from the '60s, mid '60s to the early '80s, man, would know this tag team and know how devastating they was. How you doing, Missy? She said they were great and scary. Yes, they were scary. That's one thing. Every time I saw these guys wrestle, man, I was scared. They scared me. And like my brother Antonio, I remember that was one of his first experiences of watching wrestling. I think he watched it for like 2 weeks with me and my older brother, and 1 week and I think like the third week he saw it. The third week that he actually was watching Mid Atlantic Championship Wrestling, they broke a guy's arm. The Anderson brothers. He saw the devastation of them continuing working on this guy's arm, and they broke this guy's arm, and my brother just started crying. And we had to basically calm him down and stuff like that. But he continued to watch wrestling. But this team was just. I know Chris saw the later version, of the Minnesota Wrecking Crew with Ole and Arn Anderson, and he saw how they worked on the one body part. But I'm telling you like this, Chris, it was no comparison, man, to what Ole and Gene did. It was no comparison. I mean, it was like a weak imitation. A weak imitation to that team. That Ole. I mean, Ole was younger. He was bigger. I mean, he was still had good size on him when he was with Arn, man. But he was. I mean, when him and Gene was together, man. I'm talking about a cruel tag team. Ole had the best promos, man. His promo, he would always get on TV and he would would basically challenge the fans. He was like, you know, I know a lot of guys out there on the couch with their wives and girlfriends and stuff talking about we can beat those Anderson brothers and stuff like that. Come on into the ring, you know. I mean, this man, they was something else, man. They was special. And I saw him a lot of times. I saw him a lot live, man, in Greenville Auditorium, man. Just devastate teams. And back in that day, because Jim Crockett Promotions, Jim Crockett, I'm talking about senior now, before junior, he built that promotion on tag teams. And that was the foundation of it. That's why the tag teams division was still so great when you started watching wrestling in the 80s, Chris. And the tag team division, you know, kept going up until WCW. It was so great because he built it on tag team wrestling. That was his thing. They hardly ever had singles wrestling. Around 1972, 73, he started concentrating more on singles wrestling. But so their competition, man, the competition that the Anderson brothers went against was just out of this world, man. I mean, you had people like Ric Flair and Rip Hawk was a great tag team that used to challenge them. You had Johnny Valentine and Stan Hansen used to challenge them. You had Blackjack Mulligan and Ric Flair, Blackjack Mulligan and Blackjack Lanza used to go after these guys. So you had so many great tag teams. Chief Wahoo McDaniel, Paul Jones. They just dominated people, man, and they will always get a hold of somebody's arm. So it was hard, man. It was hard to beat them. You know, you would get these great tag teams in there, and you'd be like, you know, they ain't gonna be able to do that to these teams. They did it. You know, they was able to do it. So, man, I'm just like, you know, these guys, like I said, you know, up until maybe up until the day I had them as the number one tag team. But then I had to start thinking about some other tag teams that was just as fluid as these two. But these two, I will have to say, is the greatest I ever seen as far as their the way they complemented each other. As far as their teamwork, man, I never seen anything like it. Maybe besides the Briscoe brothers. That's another team that used to go against them. The Briscoe brothers, man, they was fluid. They was connected. And like I say, they was real brothers. Now, Ole and Gene, they wasn't real brothers. Oh, you know, Gene is the one who started this. Gene.
What about when the Von Erich sagged up? What about them?
They was very good. They was very good. But the whole thing about the Von Erich brothers is Fritz. He was one of these guys, man, that used to like to keep them apart, and you know, he was trying to basically build those guys as single wrestlers. You know, he did team them up, but he was building a legacy of building single greatness. So they never got to the point where they was like the Anderson brothers, man. You know, they could have been, but the most devastating team I've seen after these two, the most scariest team, you know, to go back to the reference of what Missy was saying, is probably the team that just came out there and just basically just shocked me was the Road Warriors. When they showed up in Georgia, they had on those, you know, they would be wearing the jeans and, you know, just look, you know, biker suits, man. They were scary. You know, I'm like, wow, you know, because I think the Andersons stopped teaming together. Gene and Ole basically around 81, 82. And then we had the Road Warriors come in, I think a few years after that, when I seen the Road Warriors, man, I think my junior year in high school. And I'm just like, what in the heck? Sophomore, junior year. But those guys were scary. But man, those Anderson brothers was something.
The Moondogs. Y'all remember the Moondogs, boy. Rex and Spot, boy.
Oh yeah.
Them and that doggone Bone, boy. Them jokers look crazy, boy.
Yeah. Scott Lawson said the greatest tag team of all time, the Nightmares, Danny Davis and Kenny Wayne, hands down. Man, wow, Scott, I just can't roll with that. But you know, they were good. They were good, but I can't roll with that, brother. I mean, you know, you're gonna have to give me some you got to give me some rundown on why you think they're the greatest tag team of all time, and what was their accomplishments to make them the greatest tag team of all time. You know, so you know, hit us up with that. And Chris, in a little while, you can send him the link, man. We get Scott on here, man, so he can talk about
we can do that. Yeah.
All right. Okay, who's the Facebook user said I remember when Gene left?
That was Michael King. That was our buddy Michael.
Oh, okay, cool, Michael. What's going on, brother? Moondogs were brutal too. Yes, they were. Moondogs were something else. I mean, them guys, man. I mean, they would beat people and they never had to really use those bones, but sometimes they would use those bones to take people out.
Yeah, they would, man.
Yeah,
Them bones were lethal, boy.
yeah, yeah. Okay, wow. Oh man. She said, Chris Thunder Anderson and Chuck King worked the Moondogs in Memphis. The only time I have been scared for Chris. I understand that. I understand that definitely. Man, I'm looking for my drink, man. That's okay. I left it in the other room. But man, yeah, but Chris was like saying, Chris said Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA is the greatest tag team of all time.
Man, I was just joking, man. Stop that, man.
I know you was joking, Chris. But yeah, the Anderson brothers, man. I'm just gonna go ahead and lay out the titles. Lars and Gene, they won they was Georgia Tag Team Champions 2 times, but they was NWA World Tag Team Champions 1 time. Gene and Ole Anderson was 7 times NWA World Tag Team Champions. 1 time making Georgia Tag Team Champs. They was Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Champions 2 times, which to me that's kind of like a World Heavyweight Championship because of the competition that was in the Mid-Atlantic area. Jim Crockett Promotions. Ole and Arn only had 1 championship. They only won 1 championship.
Wow.
They was the national tag team champs 1 time.
Wow.
So that's the legacy of the Anderson brothers, man. But back then, the titles really meant a lot, and it was hard to get. So I mean, winning that, being the NWA Tag Team Champion 7 times, man, was a great accomplishment. But only team I really saw, and this is the team that pretty much ended those 2 was Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood. That's the team they could not get a hold of and work on that one body part like they could everybody else.
They were too fast, man. Them too.
Yeah, they were quick. They was quick, young, strong. They just couldn't do it. And I mean, Ricky Steamboat was such a great wrestler, and Jay Youngblood, man, complimented him like crazy. So Rick Steamboat and Jay Youngblood, they definitely got to get out. I give them props, man. They definitely one of the greatest tag teams of all times. And one thing that I hated that I didn't see is when I think Ricky Steamboat ended up going to the WWE a little bit after that. I mean, he had signed with Vince and went up there and became the Dragon. But they was going to take on the Road Warriors. And they were saying this is the team. Is this the team that to stop the Road Warriors? Road Warriors was the NWA National Tag Team Champions.
Okay.
Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood was the NWA World Tag Team Champions. And Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood was just devastating everybody, except for, like, say, when Jack and Jerry Briscoe actually took down Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood. Actually took them down. Jack and Jerry Briscoe, man, was just, I mean, them guys were still great in the 80s. I mean, they was great in the early 70s, mid 70s. They was great until, Jack Briscoe, he won the World Heavyweight Championship. So he moved on. And his brother was, pretty much winning some, singles titles and things like that. That's under the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah.
But he wasn't as good without his brother. So Jack and Jerry, man, you talking about teamwork. They was close to what the Andersons were, but they wasn't as devastating. I mean, they did not break bones. And that's what the Anderson brothers done. They broke bones and they looked good while they was doing it, man. It was
man,
crazy.
the Road Warriors, they should have broke bones, man. Hard as they were hitting people, man. They should have been breaking bones.
There's no doubt about it, man. But the thing about the Road Warriors, they ended their matches so quick. They finished off their opponents so fast. They really didn't have time to do it. I mean, they could have really hurt. They could have hurt up everybody if they wanted to, man. Yeah. But outside of the Anderson brothers, because when the Anderson brothers stopped, man, I was so happy. I was just like, oh my gosh, man, I was so happy to see them get stopped and actually leave. You don't miss them till after. I think that's the only team I didn't want to come back. The Road Warriors, actually, I was happy when they left the NWA. When they left Georgia Championship Wrestling in Mid-Atlantic, I was happy. And they went over to the AWA, and then they came back. I was happy when they came back because somebody needed to come in and work over the Koloffs. So I was happy when they came back. But I didn't trust them. I was like, man, these two guys, no. But it's a trip, man. All right, give me a second, man. Be right back.
All right, man. So, who are some of y'all's favorite tag teams? Since that's what we're going with today. Looks like tag teams. He says the Andersons. Now one of my favorites, obviously, Rock and Roll later on, like Rock and Roll Express and Midnight Express. Those two tag teams, different style, obviously, faster pace, high flying, where Gene and Arn or Ole were more ground and pound, take your arm kind of thing. But yeah, the Midnight Express and Rock and Roll Express, yeah, you can't deny them now.
Oh man, Midnight Express and Rock and Roll, man. Special. Two teams, I mean, never really scared me or anything. But I remember when Rock and Roll was going to come to the Mid-Atlantic area. I think Rock and Roll was over in Mid-South. Michael probably can contest to this. I mean, I'm pretty sure. But they was over in Mid-South, and I remember back then, man, they would show like who was coming in, and they would show film from their other territory, whatever they, wherever they was wrestling. And Ricky and Robert, man, I was just like, I mean, they was great. They was dominating teams over there, man. I mean, they were like, and I love the team working, how quick, they go back in, come inside the ring, back and forth.
Oh yeah.
Now Ricky is in, now Robert is in, man. They do that double drop kick. Never saw that before at that time.
No, that was definitely something. And then the Midnight Express with the rocket launcher. You never seen nothing like that either.
Oh yeah.
So dude just basically take his partner and throw him off the top rope and he do a splash on you. You ain't never seen that before.
Yeah. I mean, so this was a new style of wrestling. I mean, Midnight Express, they was a lot. They were similar to Steamboat and Jay Youngblood. They were similar. But I mean, those two teams, man, they definitely top 10 worldwide. I mean, ever, man. Possibly top 5, man. I mean, there's a lot of people you can say possibly top 5, man.
And now that I think about it, man, looking back, the NWA really didn't have in the NWA itself a lot of tag teams. Think about it. They really didn't have a lot of tag teams.
They had a lot of tag teams, man. It's just, but you got to remember, Jim Crockett was just that one promotion. But
that's what I'm talking about. In that one promotion, they didn't have a lot of tag teams, man. They had Road Warriors, Dusty and Magnum, Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, and then later on they had the Lightning Express. Later on,
yeah, the Lightning Express. Then you had Black Bart and Ron Bass. You had
well, yeah, okay.
I mean, Black Bart, Ron Bass. You had couldn't say, man.
Like I said, you didn't have a lot.
Yeah, pretty much. You had Ivan and Nikita Koloff. So I mean, that's 7 right there. So I mean, that's a tough roster. Everybody else, man, was just basically people they would team up to wrestle these guys. So, but as far as the roster go, I mean, you're not gonna have too many tag teams when you have that many guys on top.
It was that was. If you were a single wrestler, that's where you wanted to be. Yeah. Tag team, not so much.
Yeah. Well, like, man, I mean, that tag team, like I said, that's, when you have those like 6, 7 tag teams, that right there, what we named, at least about 7 tags, and they was all top. I mean, it was all, and then you had Barbarian and Warlord too.
Yeah. Well, then you got to think Ron Bass and
Ron Bass and Black Bart.
Yeah, Black Bart. They didn't last that long.
No, they didn't. They
didn't last that long at all because they started fighting and all that mess. And I was like, man.
Yeah. You had Jimmy Garvin and Ron Garvin at that time. So, and
they really wasn't. They were just.
They wasn't a tag team for what they was tag. They tagged every now and then.
They wasn't just like a solid tag team. I'm talking about like solid tag teams like all the time.
Yeah. Did we name Arn and Tully?
Yeah, we didn't know. Yeah, we didn't name them.
It was a huge. That's like 9 teams, man. It was a huge tag team division at that time. It's just, it just was hard to get over. and when Rock and Roll Express came in there, man, they pretty much held the tag team titles all the time.
At that point, it went between Midnight and Rock and Roll. It was just between them two.
Yeah. Between Midnight and Rock and Roll and Arn and Tully every now and then. So
then maybe every once in a while Nikita and Ivan would get them.
Yeah. So I mean,
but Nikita and Ivan were more known for that 6-man tag.
Yeah, they was. So man, it was a rough tag team division. I mean, you did have other people come through. You had Fantastic come through. You had Dutch Mantell and not Tom Zink. I forgot Dutch Mantell and Bob Roop and people like that come through. But and they was known tag teams from where they came from, but they disappeared quickly out of Mid-Atlantic area.
Uh-huh.
You just.
But that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the tag teams were just in that promotion.
Yeah.
Not the ones they pulled in every once in a while. You be like, oh, what they doing here? What they doing here? I'm talking about the core, the ones who were
the core.
Always,
yeah. It couldn't be. It couldn't have been too many, man. I mean, because guys, they was getting ran over. Guys were getting ran over. I mean, it just, it is what it is, man. Guys were getting ran over, and that's why, because remember at one time, the different territories, a lot of different territories in the NWA, they allowed them. You only had one World Heavyweight Championship belt, and you had that one United States Heavyweight Championship belt. They did have America's title that was out of San Francisco that you could wrestle, but they only wrestled in that territory up there. But they were allowed to go to any NWA territory. But a lot of the NWA territories had their own version of the NWA World Tag Team titles, but they ended up dropping those back in the early '80s, and it was only the Mid-Atlantic tag team titles with Mid, because those was the only ones that was recognized.
And Missy says the Freebirds, but the Freebirds came later.
Yeah, well, the Freebirds was there early, Chris, but they left. They left and went to World Class, and then they came back. They was in Georgia, and so I mean, you can really still say they was in Jim Crockett because they wrestled a lot at that time in Georgia Championship Wrestling. But Georgia Championship Wrestling at that time really got swallowed up by Jim Crockett, and he had the Turner studios and stuff like that too. So, but during that time, man, the Freebirds pretty much ran off the World Class and Mid-South. So, but yeah, they was in that mix, but they didn't stick around too much. I can't say that. Then you had Steve Williams Steve Williams and Terry Gordy didn't even stick around for that.
No, the only time I remember they was a tag team when they had that doggone tournament.
Well, they was a tag team in Japan. Terry Gordy and
in Japan. That was right.
They was IWGP champions for a long time over there. They dominated Japan. Only tag team I would say dominated Japan more than them was the Road Warriors. I think they dominated it better than the Road Warriors because they stayed over there in Japan. You know, it was so man, I mean, you had a lot of but yeah, Missy, that's thanks for coming in, chiming in on that with that Freebird thing. But yeah, I want to is Scott still on here?
I don't know if Scott's still on here or not. Sent him
still on here. Hit us up, man, because I want to hear a little bit about the Nightmares. I know about the team, but I didn't follow them a lot. I think you coming from seeing them as a youngster, man, on Continental Championship Wrestling. Man, I would like to hear more about some of the things that they did to impress you for you to come up with that comment that they're the greatest tag team of all time. Chris, outside of this, man, you say Rock and Roll Express?
Yeah, Rock and Roll, man, and Midnight, man. Matter of fact, I wish, just for nostalgia's sake, somebody would bring back the U.S. tag team titles.
Yeah.
Just for nostalgia's sake.
That was a great. Man, I love those titles, but they had to bring those titles in the NWA. In the WCW, they had to bring those titles. Well, it was in NWA and then it switched over to WCW. Yeah. But they had to have those titles, man, because the tag team division still, it really wasn't that big, but you did have, like you said, you had Rock and Roll Express, you had Midnight Express, you had Lex and Sting, you had so you had Road Warriors, you had so many tag teams at that time. And then, a little bit later on, and one thing I look at when I look at this thing now, Doom, okay, but we're just gonna go on. We're gonna go on, move on to later on. As far as the tag, when Doom got the titles, Doom had a lot of competition, still had a lot of competition. When Harlem Heat got the titles, I think the tag team division was pretty weak in WCW, man.
By then, it was.
I hated that. But, Harlem Heat kept on winning. And, they held it for a long time. But it was pretty weak. It was watered down. It was
all you had at that point, man. All you had at that point, maybe, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson.
Yeah.
You had Lex and Sting, and you had the Road Warriors if they ever showed up. That was it.
Yeah, and the Road Warriors.
That was it.
Yeah, they was a shell of their former selves, man. They wasn't as muscle. What's name was still pretty big, but Hawk had lost a lot of his muscularity at that time. He wasn't. Harlem Heat was bigger than those. Not Harlem Heat, but Harlem Heat. Yeah, they was pretty much bigger than those guys. Besides, of course, they wasn't bigger than Animal.
And then later on, you had you had the Steiner brothers and Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and
yeah.
Somebody said, who is it? Nasty Boys.
The Outsiders, the Nasty Boys. Yeah.
That was our boy Heel.
Yeah. When the Steiners, when Harlem Heat first got the titles, the Steiners was in there for a little while. They ended up signing with WWE.
And then the Nasty Boys, they were a joke. I thought they were a joke in WWE.
Yeah. I didn't really care for them, man.
I didn't care for them.
And and back in the day, the Nasty Boys, Chris. Back in the day, they wouldn't have had a chance in the old NWA, WCW. When they was Jim Crockett Promotions, Nasty Boys wouldn't have won that title.
Don't get me wrong. If it got into a fight, they could hold their own. If it got into
a real fight, they could hold their own. But as far as tag team, man, there's too many great tag teams. There's no way in the world they would have ended up with the titles. But hey, Nasty Boys, man, they did their thing, and man, they going down in tag team lore as one of the greatest tag teams ever. So
they will. Matter of fact, what was that article you posted in the group? One of the Nasty Boys was in the hospital or something, wasn't he?
Yeah, Brian Knobbs. No, wait a minute. Brian Knobbs. He's doing pretty well, man. Yeah, it was with Flair went to see him and all that. So yeah, he's well. He's up. He's doing better. But yeah, he had got COVID or something like that, man. And it just really took him down.
Oh wow.
He already had a bunch of health problems anyway. So COVID pretty much took him out, man. But yeah, he seemed to be doing well now, and I hope it continues. So prayers out for him. But man, that's pretty much all I got to really say, man. Is just the Anderson brothers. Man, great tag team. Rest in peace to Gene. Is Ole still living, right?
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah, Ole's still living, and Lars is still living. Lars, I think he's the oldest one. Gene was older than him. I think Gene was born in 1932. 1991, he passed. And Lars was born in 1939. So Lars Anderson, that will make him 82 years old now. So and I think Ole's like 78, something like that. So those guys up there, man. But they was something special to see. And Missy, like Missy said, they was great and they was scary. They was special. But I haven't seen a team like that. I haven't seen a team like that since. As far as being able to work on one body part, and that's all they did their whole career, man. They continually.
Well, the closest team to that right now would be FTR.
Yeah, FTR. That's what I was gonna say too.
That's the closest thing you're gonna get to it right now.
Yeah, because the base of that, the foundation of that, went to Ole Anderson because Ole teamed with Arn teamed with Ole, and and Arn learned it, and Arn took that to Tully, and then now Tully took that to FTR. So they basically running off that same that running that same playbook that that the Brainbusters ran. So
yeah.
So man, yeah. So they look good doing it, man. And I mean, hey, I have no problem with it. I mean, because they're throwback to that, man, and they're able to do it in today's modern time.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, they mix it up. Obviously, they mix up their style and stuff like that, but to make it entertaining, because like I said, ain't nobody gonna sit, nowadays ain't nobody gonna sit in no match where you got an arm bar on somebody for 45 minutes. Ain't nobody trying to deal with that.
But see, that's one thing Ole and Arn, I mean, you go back to YouTube and look at some of the matches, they didn't do that. Ole and Arn, man, they would get your arm, man, they put it behind your back, pick you up, slam you, or whatever. I mean, they'll work on your arm a little bit, they might get you in the arm bar and work on that thing for maybe 15, 20 seconds, team up, tag the other guy coming off the middle rope, man, and bam, knee dropping on that arm, whatever. They would constantly work on your arm, coming in just pretty much giving it a shove. So both of those guys work on your arm, and I mean, they just really didn't hold you down. And when Arn and Ole was teaming up, they would actually hold you down and work on it a lot longer. Ole was older then, so he wasn't he wasn't as mobile as he was back then. But
he wasn't trying to do all that moving and stuff.
Yeah. But back when he was younger, man, they were just one of these teams that just kept on coming in the ring, man, and was just beating it, which was crazy. FTR, Zack Sabre Jr. and Tachi, Briscoe brothers from Ring of Honor. Yeah, Briscoe brothers from Ring of Honor, man, they something else. They are.
They just won a tag team. And one of them independent federations, one of them wild, crazy independent federations. I forget which one it was.
GCW or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
I think it was GCW.
Okay. Yeah, but those two guys, man, I wish they was with WWE or AEW. So more people.
I don't know, man. Them boys like they might be too wild, boy. Them boys
They are. Yeah. But
ain't nobody trying to see all that on mainstream, man. They ain't ready for that. Them boys too wild, man.
They are, man. They are. But man, they probably the best tag team in the world when it boils down to it. I mean, that's a devastating tag. I mean, those guys.
And you know what? That's what I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna ask and see if Wes can come on our show, because I want to see if he kin to them boys.
Wes Briscoe? Nah.
Yeah, I wonder if they kin to them boys.
I don't think so, man. Wes Briscoe is a real Briscoe. I don't think the Briscoe brothers are real Briscoes, man. I think they just picked up that name. Well, actually, that is their name. I take that back. From what I know, I think that is their name.
So they might be some cousins or something, man.
I don't know about all that. I don't know about all that. Yeah, the Young Bucks, man. Young Bucks, I like them. They're a good tag team. But man, I can't compare them to
excuse me.
I can't compare them to a lot of teams in the past. I mean, they're entertaining and they're a good tag team. But if you put them back in the day, man, I don't know who they'll look. They probably look competitive against the Rock and Roll Express, people like that. But Midnight Express, they'll look competitive against. But them against the Anderson brothers, man, no. I don't know. But great tag team, man. I mean, and you can't deny the things they do. I mean, it's spectacular. So I wonder how they're going to end up. But I mean, they don't want a lot of titles, man. I think they don't won like 15 titles, the Young Bucks, since they've been in wrestling. So I mean, that's very impressive. Very impressive. But man. But this team, like the Anderson brothers, probably the most devastating team outside of Road Warriors and Doom that I ever seen. Road Warriors, Doom. Who else, Chris? You put on that team that just ran over people, man.
Ran over people? Oh shoot. Definitely Barbarian and Warlord whenever they tag.
Yeah, that's why I was gonna say Warlord and Barbarian. But Warlord and Barbarian, they did, but every time when they was teaming up in they had, the Road Warriors was there, so they wasn't able to run over the Road Warriors. I mean, it was a battle, but it wasn't, so they faced some other teams too that was formable teams, but yeah, they pretty much ran over people. Bruiser and Crusher. I mean, that's an old name, and most of us that hadn't seen those guys, like I saw them a little bit when I was very little. They was from the AWA, so they was Midwestern team. Bruiser and Crusher in the 60s, yeah, they devastated people and all that. I didn't see them, until later, and I saw them in the early 80s when they actually went against the Road Warriors. And what did Bruiser ass Animal
when he picked him up over, he's like, "What are you doing?" And they were like, "Whatever we want."
People, Bruiser and Crusher, man, they wasn't used to people throwing them around like that.
No,
these guys was old, man. These guys was in their 50s, man.
Yeah, I don't think they ever came off the second rope.
Yeah, they wasn't used to being thrown around like that, and the Road Warriors just tossed them around, man. Tossed them around like they were rag dolls.
And them were some big ballers.
Yeah, and I think the Road Warriors, who did they beat? They beat Baron Von Raschke and Crusher for the AWA Tag Team Championship titles, man. They devastated them with power. I mean, it was all power moves, man. And Crusher was like 500 pounds, so man, and Baron Von Raschke, they just beat him. They beat poor Baron Von to death, man.
Man, he been old all his life, man.
Yeah, he's been old all his life. He's trying to get him with that claw. He's still living though, man. He's still rolling. He ain't wrestling no more, but he's still rolling. But maybe he could still get out there and do it. I don't know. We got Jimmy Valiant still doing it.
Yep.
That's another team that was great, man. The Valiant brothers. Johnny and Jimmy. They was pretty. No, it wasn't Johnny and Jimmy. Jimmy and Jerry. Jimmy and Jerry. I think Johnny was the manager, but the Valiant brothers, they was really good. But they was in the World WWF. They did their damage over there, but they was really good, man. They won like 7 world titles. I don't count their world titles because they did it. They won their world titles in I think San Francisco. But that territory, they only wrestled. They will only defend their titles, man. In Southern California. Same thing with Bearcat Wright. Bearcat Wright. They looked at that as a world championship. That's why you always hear that he was the first black world champion. But he won that WWA World Heavyweight title, and they separated from the NWA. So that's why they stopped recognizing that as a world title. But Bearcat Wright, he had a chance to actually go around and defend that title around the world, but he didn't do it. He only would defend it in California. But I will say this: he won it in '63. He had he wrestled some top guys, Lou Thez, Edward Carpenter, and people like that, man. Top guys. So so it's, you can look at it as legit or not, but then you have, like, say, Ron Simmons. They recognized him as the first world champion because he actually legitimately won it, where he can defend it, because the NWA, WCW at that time was still defending around the world, So, but all right, man. Unless you got anything else to say, man, I'm pretty much done.
Yeah, that was pretty much it, man. I just want to come on with you, man, and throw some other tag teams out there with you, and
Oh yeah. And if you on Facebook, you know what to do. Like, share. You on YouTube, hit that like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, so we can get out more great content to you. And for my man Christopher Burton, I'm Harry Bernard Taylor. Peace.